All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're going to unpack one of the most buzzed about web frameworks in the Python universe, FastAPI. You know that feeling, right? You're trying to figure out how some API works, but the docs are totally out of date. Or maybe you're spending hours writing the same old boring code just to check if the data coming in is correct. It's like you're drowning in all this digital clutter, and it's a huge pain for developers. And, learning a new framework can sometimes just make things worse. But what if there was a framework built from the get-go to just get rid of all that complexity, to make building solid, well-documented APIs not just simple, but, you guessed it, fast? Well, that's exactly what we're going to check out today with FastAPI. So, what is FastAPI really? I mean, the name kind of gives it away, right? But it's all about two main things: raw speed and just making life simpler for developers. Let's dig in. Okay, so the official line is that it's a modern, high-performance web framework for building APIs. It popped up in 2018, so it's pretty new on the scene. And because it's new, it's built on all the latest and greatest Python stuff, like type hints, which is a huge part of what makes it so dang efficient. And you can see that simplicity right away. Look at this. This is a full-blown Hello World web app, and it's what, 5 lines of code? You just import FastAPI, make an app object, and then use this little @app.get thing that's called a decorator to define your endpoint. It's just so clean, so readable. You look at it and you just get it. Now, FastAPI isn't pulling off all this magic by itself. It's actually standing on the shoulders of giants. Under the hood, it's built right on top of Starlet, which is this super lightweight tool that handles all the basic web server things. And then it's run by Unicorn, which is a lightning-fast server built specifically for this modern asynchronous way of doing things. So you get all the power from these specialized tools, but wrapped up in FastAPI's really nice, easy-to-use package. Okay, but if FastAPI has a real secret weapon, it's this thing called Pydantic. This is where so much of the magic really comes from. Think of it like a super strict security guard for all the data trying to get into your app. So what Pydantic does is it uses those standard Python type hints, where you say a variable is a string or an integer, to automatically validate your data. You just declare what the data is supposed to look like, and Pydantic makes sure it does. And just like that, poof, all that messy manual validation code you used to write, it's just gone. So how does it actually work? Well, check this out. You just make a class, and it inherits from this thing called base model from Pydantic. Then you just declare your fields using regular Python types. Name is a string, price is a float, isOffer is a Boolean, and you can even say it might not be there. It looks and feels just like a normal Python class, but it's got these superpowers baked in. And get this, Pydantic even handles converting types for you automatically. So say your API gets a price sent as a string, like in quotes, $99.99, but your model says, hey, I need a float. No problem. Pydantic is smart enough to just convert it. I mean, think about it. That one feature just wipes out an entire class of really common bugs. Okay, and here it is. This is the big aha moment. All of that work we did in that simple Pydantic model, FastAPI uses that to do something absolutely incredible. It generates fully interactive API documentation for you. And I mean automatically. You don't write any extra code, you don't mess with config files, it just works. And it's not just one set of docs. You actually get 2 different flavors right out of the box. You just go to /docs on your server and boom, you get this amazing Swagger UI where you can actually click around and test your API live, or you can go to /reduc and you get this really clean, polished documentation view. Seriously, this feature by itself is a total game changer and saves developers an insane amount of time. All right, so we've covered the basics. Now, let's get into the really cool stuff, the features that give FastAPI its performance superpowers. So FastAPI was born and bred from modern async Python. When you see an endpoint defined with async def like this, you're basically telling the framework, hey, this function might have to wait for something slow, like talking to a database or another API. And instead of just sitting there and waiting, the server can pause it, go do other work, and come back when it's done. This is how it can handle thousands of connections at the same time without getting all clogged up. FastAPI also has this really elegant system for handling things your app depends on, like a database connection. It's called dependency injection. Look, you just write a little function that knows how to get the thing you need, like a database session. Then in your actual API endpoint, you just say, I need one of those, using this depends function. FastAPI does all the heavy lifting. It runs the setup, gives you the database connection, and even cleans it up for you when you're done. It keeps your code super clean and way easier to test. But what about stuff that's really slow, but the user doesn't need to wait for it to finish? Think about sending a confirmation email. That's where background tasks come in. You can just tell FastAPI, hey, go run this send email function in the background. The API can then immediately send a response back to the user saying, yep, we got it, while the email sends a few seconds later. It makes your app feel incredibly snappy. Okay, building an API on your laptop is one thing, but running it in the real world, in production, that's a whole different ballgame. So let's see how FastAPI gets you ready for prime time. Yeah, there's a really important difference between how you run your app for development versus production. When you're coding, you use a simple command that runs a single Unicorn server, and it even reloads when you change your code. Super handy. But for production, you bring in a manager, like Geocorn, to run a whole team of Unicorn workers. This is how you use all the CPU cores on your server to handle way more traffic and make sure your app doesn't go down. And when you're heading to production, there's a little checklist of things you'll definitely want to set up. You need a health endpoint, so your monitoring tools can check if your app is still alive. You'll probably need to configure cores, which is what controls which other websites can talk to your API. Rate limiting is a must to stop people from spamming your service. And this is a big one. You have to use async database drivers. If you don't, your database calls will block everything. And all that awesome async performance we talked about, it just goes right out the window. So after seeing all of that, let's just step back and put it all together. Why on earth did FastAPI get so popular so incredibly fast? Well, when you look at the whole picture, it just makes sense. You're getting the kind of performance that rivals Node.js or Go thanks to its async nature, but you're also getting an experience that makes you feel fast as a developer. You write less code, which naturally means fewer bugs. The pydantic validation catches errors before they ever become a problem. And those automatic docs mean your API is always reliable and easy for others to use. It's a framework that just respects your time. Really, at the end of the day, FastAPI's biggest win is that it just lowers the barrier. It makes it easier for anyone to build powerful, modern, and super reliable APIs. It takes care of all the boring, tedious stuff for you so you can actually focus on what makes your applications special. And that really just leaves one question, doesn't it? With tools this fast and this intuitive, what are you going to build next?